So I'm not on LinkedIn a lot, but even I noticed that lately the UX community has become less optimistic about its own future. And I see a lot of blog posts like this and this and this and this, and I see them more frequently. And you know what I also notice? A serious decline in UX writing job ads, at least in Europe. And then there's AI and big layoffs in the tech industry. So what is happening here? Is UX writing slowly dying? And if so, what does that mean for us UX writers? Let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Kat and I teach people about writing in tech, and on this channel you will find everything that you need to know, especially about UX writing. So if you want to learn more about all of that, make sure to hit subscribe and ring the bell. So, my dear friends, it's time to get a little uncomfortable, get a boring tasting drink of your choice and a terrible place to sit, and then let's elaborate on one of the most increasingly discussed topics lately, which is UX writing slowly dying? Is it fading into nothingness? Now, the reason why I want to address this topic today is this very interesting LinkedIn post by my fellow German UX professional, Florian Bölter, who asked the community, in 5 words or less, what advice would you give someone just starting out in UX or product design? That's a good question, right? A very good question. But it's not so much about Florian's question, it's more about the comments below, like this one by our good friend Hassan Bakir saying, don't even think about it. Then we have another one saying, wait a couple of years. We have Thomas saying, do something else now. We see have a backup plan, and we see Amar saying don't start, just don't. And Hannah saying don't leave your job yet. And as other commenters testify, man, these comments are depressing. Around the same time, Hassan sparked a heated discussion with his post saying, my advice to people thinking of getting into UX writing or content design, think about doing something else instead. And some people replied to his post with, whoa, wait a minute, okay? That picture you're painting here is way too dark. But many others agreed with him. So let's discuss all of this a little bit and see what's behind all that. And again, we debate this statement, UX writing is slowly dying, by looking at the arguments in favor and against this hypothesis. And we start by visiting the arguments in favor of this hypothesis. And keep in mind, some of the things that I mention are facts and official numbers and stats, and some of them are my personal experience, but I will definitely tell you which is which. So let's start with some stats. As I said in the introduction, the biggest one is the number of tech layoffs in the last year. According to a recent report by TechCrunch, about 250 people were laid off in the tech industry in 2023 worldwide. And the layoffs affected, among others, core product experts like developers, UX designers, UX researchers, and UX writers. And this is kind of new because we're the ones building the product, right? The thing these companies earn money with, right? So why are we amongst those who get laid off? Well, one of the reasons might be AI. And here's my experience. The dangerous thing about AI is that many of us started taking it seriously only when ChatGPT emerged. In early 2019, which is about 5 years ago, I was working for a UX agency and I was booked for a project with a client who wanted to set up a tool that would be able to read a sentence in the UX copy, analyze it, and then detect which parts of the copy align with the company's brand voice and which don't. And then it would make very specific suggestions for how to change the non-matching parts of the copy so that they would match the brand voice. And this would ultimately end up in people just being able to write just anything and having the tool correcting their writing until it is good UX copy. So if you think that companies suddenly started replacing us in 2023 with ChatGPT and copy AI, think again. This is a process that has been going on for a couple of years already, and this might be the reason why companies only hire writers and designers for a couple of years or months, and once everything is set up, they might let us go and let AI do the rest of the work. And when there is another big quick product update or a new feature needed, they stock their UX teams up again. Another trend that I personally see is the watering down of UX. And let me explain what I mean by that. What I see a lot in practice, in the freelancing projects that I do and even in my job, is that companies expect UX to fulfill sales or marketing goals. So user satisfaction is not the overall goal. Conversion is. Making existing customers happy is not the overall goal. Winning new customers is. Educating is not the overall goal. Creating buzz and going viral is. It's not about providing quality and optimizing details. It's about gaining attention fast. And with this kind of product culture, marketing tactics become more important and UX heuristics become less important. And that's also because UX heuristics are harder to grasp, harder to explain, harder to understand than a simple conversion rate. And let's wrap this part up with some more stats. Because indeed, the job platform has published some numbers back in August 2023 that showed that there was a strong decrease in numbers of UX jobs on their platform. We actually hit a 3-year low. And another uncomfortable truth is backed up by numbers. In one of his articles on UX Tigers, Jacob Nielsen summarized that salaries for UX professionals have dropped by 11% after having been steady for about 25 years. So there are these different hints that we get from the industry that something is going on with the field of UX and it's not looking too good. And to be honest, we cannot ignore this. But that doesn't mean that our hypothesis, UX writing is slowly dying, must be true. So let's also check out the arguments against this hypothesis. And for that, let's look at this from another perspective, because many UX professionals take notice of these developments, but have different interpretations of it. Ruben Caspides, for example, says in his article, so is UX writing dead? Absolutely not. It's evolving, as any field does, but it's far from dying out. Now, what does he mean by that? Well, maybe he means exactly what this Reddit user says. Maybe UX is becoming a mature industry and we're not inventing anything new as much as we used to do. Maybe UX has just entered another era and this disruption causes uncertainty and, well, fear. Because this is definitely not the first time something like this has happened to UX. In his article, The Many Deaths of UX Design, Christian Michel walks us down memory lane by reminding us of how often UX and design have been called dead. This seems to be just something that happens to these highly dynamic disciplines that UX and all these subdisciplines in UX are. But there's more. Many others, and I am among them, rather see a shift in the requirements and expectations in the industry. And this is true for both UX design and UX writing. Now, in the earlier stages of these disciplines, people were told that it's the next big thing, right? UX writing is the next big thing. Every big company will soon start hiring UX writers and you can make this much money and you can be a creative working in the tech industry and this is so cool, etc. And since there were no standards and only few expectations because the discipline was still so young, right? You could just go complete one of these UX design or UX writing boot camps for a couple of $1,000s, and then you got a certificate, and that was more than anyone else had, right? So you probably got a junior position with that a couple of years ago. At least that was the case when I started working as a UX writer. I had absolutely zero experience and also zero certificates. I just had an interest in UX and writing, and I had a background in communication studies, and back then you were absolutely good to go with that. But times have changed. The bar was raised. Today you need to have experience, you need to have a portfolio, you need to have solid knowledge and skills in UX. So it is harder for career switchers and newbies to find a job in UX, especially when they have to compete with all of the experienced people that hit the market after these massive layoffs. So Hassan and Hannah and all the others are not wrong when they express their pessimistic thoughts about our discipline, because indeed career switchers and junior UXers do have a harder time to build a successful career in UX. Because, and this is also my personal answer to the question, is UX writing slowly dying? It's not dying, but it's changing a lot. And in order to be successful as a UX writer and also as a UX designer, you really have to put in the work and the commitment. It's definitely not enough to just complete a UX bootcamp and apply for a UX job. What you need to have is credibility and commitment. And when you have credibility and commitment in these disciplines, you do certain things. You bring certain things to the table. You talk a certain way. You do certain things, okay? And I don't mean posting about UX writing on LinkedIn and having heard that MailChimp has great microcopy. It is about questioning things, taking things further, contributing to the knowledge of the community, not simply repeating the knowledge that already exists. What I'm trying to say is, if you're not willing to really dive into this field, understand the technical aspects, the psychological aspects, the cultural aspects, in our case, the linguistic aspects of it, you won't have an easy career in UX. And many people just don't care enough. They just want a cool, exciting, well-paid job. And that's fair. But in order to get it, you have to work harder. And there's a comment in the exact same Reddit thread that summarizes this quite well, even though it sounds a bit harsh, to be honest. It says, unfortunately, the forum is flooded with UX wannabes that buy a course for 3 weeks and expect to be hired by FAANG, so Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. The market has realized it and only opens positions for seniors and leaving all those crying about it and blaming the industry. UX is booming, but will only absorb people that belong to it. Don't try to skip learning steps. It takes time and effort. And no, AI will not replace you. UX designers that use AI will. And as I said, that sounds a bit harsh, but I think this is very true. And there's another wonderful, interesting quote by Andrew Stein on LinkedIn, which is a little less harsh, that says the same thing, but far more diplomatic and more gentle. Because Andrew says, if you love this work, if you're compelled, fueled, driven by the puzzles and words and psychology of it all, then you might fall on the right side of statistics. If not, I bet you will learn a lot anyway. If your priority is stability above all else, this might not be your path. So yes, consider your options, the pros and the cons, but if you love this work and want to give it a go, I'm here for it. And I think these are amazing words to end this video. Please don't think UX is not your career or that it's not for you. If you really love it, start taking a course, read about it, get into the deep ends of it, dive deeply into it, add to it, analyze it, learn, produce, learn more, and you know what? Okay, have a plan B. It's okay. Maybe your first option is UX writing, but in case the job market hits a new low and you get laid off at that time, you want to have other options, okay? So also take some courses about SEO on the side and also train your copywriting skills on the side, okay? In a best case scenario, these additional skills will help you make your UX writing even more versatile and more refined and bulletproof. And in a worst case scenario, you can apply for more positions on the job market. So, what are your thoughts on this and your experience, your fears, your hopes? Let me know in the comments. Also, make sure to hit like and subscribe. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok, where I also share free tips about writing in tech and especially UX writing. And other than that, there's nothing left to say except keep on writing, enjoy the process, and I hope to see you sometime soon.